Member for Ashwood.
Thank you, Speaker, and congratulations on your reappointment. And it is also an honour to be elevated to Deputy Speaker and serving with you, and I'm sure we're going to have a wonderful time together for this term. And it is very good to follow on from the Father of the House with a bit of a history lesson. I thank him for that. I'd like to start with acknowledging the traditional owners of the land of the Ashwood district, the Wurundjeri people of the Kulin Nation and the Burong people, and recognise their deep and unwavering connection to the land and waterways. And I extend that recognition to Victoria's First Peoples Assembly and their fantastic work to deliver towards truth and treaty with our First Nations people under the leadership of co-chairs Auntie Geraldine Atkinson and Marcus Stewart. And it was a privilege to be in this chamber last term and seeing the advancement of that work that the Assembly are doing towards truth and treaty, and knowing that we are going towards such a tremendous milestone in our state's history. Also, congratulations to the Premier and the Cabinet, and fantastic to see so many of us here on this side and some of that side of the chamber. We had a pretty good day, and it's been a pretty good 4 years. Now another one. I am grateful, so grateful and humble to be part of this historic third term of the Andrews Labor government. So I thank the Premier and Cabinet and all of our members on this side for the work we've done over the last 4 years, because it was a difficult 4 years for all of us, no matter what side of the chamber you were on. And to have that faith shown in us by the Victorian people, with even another seat added to it, just, you know, all of the difficulties, they don't go away. It was tough for so many people, especially in my Mount Waverley district and everyone's district. But to have that vote of confidence come back is totally humbling. When the VC decided to redraw the boundaries, and I obviously noticed pretty soon that the Mount Waverley district ceased to be, I thought that was a bit cheeky. You know, who knows? You can't take these things for granted. But I was very lucky to be endorsed by our wonderful Labor Party for the new seat of Ashwood. And so I thank the people of Mount Waverley, who is my home, but I also thank all of the people in Ashwood, whether they voted for us or not. 50 years ago, my grandparents moved into Hilltop Avenue in Ashburton, now in the seat of Ashwood. When I was a kid, popping grandma's flowers, I can't remember what they're called, but you know, those little flowers, we used to go and pop the flowers around the side and get in trouble. I obviously never had any idea that one day I would be representing the people who live in that house now. And that's pretty special. When Rebecca and I moved to Mount Waverley in 2010, I had no idea that I'd be representing the people in my neighbourhood, and that's pretty special. And when Chris Herbert and I moved my old company Throughput to High Street in Glen Iris, also in the Ashwood district, I also had no idea. And yet, whether my commute was from Mount Waverley on one side of the Ashwood district to Glen Iris on the other for 8 years, 8 years, 9 years, 10 years, whatever it was, while we were there, now that is the district that people have chosen me to represent. So I thank them all. And I will do everything in my power to do the best job that I can do to represent those people, regardless of who they vote for. Now, there's a lot of thanks to make, so I'm going to try and get everybody I can, and if I somehow forget someone, I apologise, and I'll buy you an appropriate drink at some time to make it up. So, I'd like to start with the State Secretary of the Labor Party in Victoria, Chris Ford, Assistant Secretaries Nicola Castleman and Cam Petrie, Roman Charfuli, who was leading up the field campaign, Ning Yan, Bofeng Wu, Declan McGonigal and Matt McDonald from Premiers, thank you for putting up with a stressed out candidate. Betty Belay also there, and I'd like to thank Nicole Naboo for her work in the Whip's office for the last 4 years, and congratulations to the new Whippy team, doing a sterling job. The Whippy team, that's right. Got that in Hansard now. That'll might stick, you never know. To our friends in the industrial movement, my very good friends at the TWU, Vic Taz, Secretary Mike McNess, Assistant Secretary Mem Suleiman, Bill, Dicio, Chris, John, Daniela, everyone who's there. And the National Secretary, who I think was here today to hear Mr Berger's speech from the other place, Michael Kane, and also Mr Berger in the other place. Others that I must mention, thank Michael Donovan from the SDA, ETU State Secretary Troy Gray, and Michael Watson adds to that, one of my constituents and a good bloke to have a beer with, and Joe and Liz from the CFMEU, who've been very supportive, and I thank them for that. Trades Hall, Luke Hilakari, and Phoebe Cotton, who's a constituent I kept seeing popping up around election time. Thank you, Phoebe, and thank you, Luke. Federal colleagues that I need to thank. The former Prime Minister Kevin Rudd came down to pre-poll, and let me tell you, he still got it. He was pretty popular. Senator Jana Stewart, who also brought the cutest baby at pre-poll, which would have to have got a vote or two just by having little Ari there. The federal member for Higgins, Dr Michelle Anandaraja, and the member for Chisholm, Queen and Garland. And I'm going to have to speed up. The Monash Mayor Tina Samagia and Deputy Mayor Nikki Lau, thank you for your support. And my good friends in this place and the other place, the Minister for Police and Racing, the Minister for Small Business and Veterans, the returning member for Laverton, and all of our Eastern Bloc MPs. We're all here, and we added another one who's sitting over there. The Eastern Red Wall. Yes. Also, I must thank President Sean Lean in the other place and Ms Terpstra for their support over the last 4 years. And Mr Lean was present at pre-poll a number of days, and I really appreciate his support. And look, every one of us, we've all chipped in to help each other, and it is magnificent to show, just to see that team and that teamwork of a party that keeps itself together, and I think we have the results to show that counts. My neighbour, my new neighbour, who used to be working in my office until he put his hand up, so we kicked him out. But very glad to see him over there, the new member of Glen Waverley, and I can't wait to hear his address a little later on. It'll be a cracker, I'm sure. And whilst we're on inaugurals or a cracker, the member for Hastings, now he didn't mention anything about a certain movie in his speech, which I thought was very classy. But Brentwood Secondary College that was in my area of Mount Waverley, now is in the Glen Waverley area, were doing a certain play based on that movie, and the member for Hastings candidate then came down to see. Now the word had obviously got around that the member was coming down, and all the kids were very excited, but there was a group of mothers who seemed to be a lot more excited. And all I can say is that the member for Glen Waverley and I, we were not important at all. And it was all about the member for Hastings. So you may not have mentioned it in your inaugural speech, member Hastings, but no one's forgetting.
Order. There's too much audible conversation in the chamber.
To my staff, member for Glen Waverley used to be my staff, Lisa Williams, Sky Griffiths, who took leave to be the best campaign manager, maybe as good as the former Glen Waverley, actually better. Eve Zhang, Hannah Krasovic, Oscar Beadle, the field organiser extraordinaire, past staff Rachel Tien, Caitlin Brown. Community groups, many to mention, still going. Okay, the Victorian Tamil Association, Satha, Ranjini, the whole group down there, wonderful support. To Julia Fu and Michael Murray and the Ashburton Chinese Seniors Cultural Association, Michael Mao and the Chinese Association of Monash, Ms Lee and the Monash Chinese Seniors Volunteers, and not only thank you for just the support, but also my daughter is hooked on the little red bean rice sweet things that we get from Mrs Lee, and Sam is hooked on the dumplings, and I can't go to any event with Mrs Lee or anyone without bringing those home or I'm in trouble. To volunteers, none of us would be here without our volunteers helping. The member for Roeville mentioned them, we've all mentioned them, so I'm just going to read some names very quickly. Julie Vine, John Watson, Amy Raymond and Bisou the dog, Rod Charles, Matt Crossman, David Schultz, Anne Hayden, John Smith, John Nihal, Rod and Darcy Short, Bill Deandis, Gavin Ryan and Jill Davenport, Alex Haynes, Harsha Garatney, Bev Phillips, Emma Louise Lee, Chris Barcham, Stephen Watson, Finn McHugh, who we met door knocking and he said, can I come and help? And then he did. Mohammed Shabazz, Nathan Temple, Jill M. Hing, Angus Reynolds and Raja, Nina Mimkin, Sue Swinburne and Ken Baker, Yvonne Tabe, Chap Chow, Leslie Tan, Tony Jang, Jeremy O'Keefe, Nayu Wang, Sandeep Sarathi, Daniel French Mullen, Issa Pendragon, Joshua Bruni, Rosalind Keller, and special thanks to the former member for Burwood, Bob Stenholt, Anna Burke, the former member for Chisholm, Stephen Martin, the former Speaker of the House in Canberra, and Cyril and Jan Kennedy. Now, also to Galeed, Abdullah, Jerry Curry and the whole Doosa team, having my old alma mater help out was fantastic, and I probably owe them a pizza night or something. To Jake and the young Latrobe crew, to Tammy, Piper, Molly, Sarah, Ruby, Lucy, Mariam, Haney, Julian, Anch, Rami, Joel, Corey, Callum and Declan. And of course, and if I forget these I will be dead when I get home, to my beautiful, intelligent, clever and wonderful wife, Rebecca. Couldn't do any of it without you. And to my kids who put up with, as all of our families do, put up with the rigours of this job, Sophie, Lindsay and Sam, they are obviously my proudest achievement in life. My proudest achievement in working life would be to be in this job. Also to my parents, to Marcia and John Fregon, who are watching, and my parents-in-law, Doug and Ruth Hastings, thank you. But while I'm on my mother, who is probably watching at home, couldn't come in today, it was 4 years ago today that I had my first speech in this house, on this very day. And to be here 4 years later and see my very good friend, the member for Glen Waverley, do his is very special. But 4 years ago, when my mother was sitting just in the gallery over there, I did say, happy birthday, Mum, because it is and was her birthday. So once again, to my mother, happy birthday. You got her on Hansard twice. Thank you.